Well, SAMBA TV has got some numbers on Hawkeye for anybody that cares about Hawkeye. Apparently, there wasn't much audience interest, and we're going to get into those numbers, of course. Starting to wonder if Disney is running out of coffins to bury all of these Marvel IPs as they slowly kill them off this year. It's got to be getting close, folks. But the numbers for Hawkeye, well, they're pretty much... Renegade Online. Yeah, it is not a good day. It is not a good week over there at Disney, particularly at Marvel Studios, Disney Animation Studios. Just two things that have crashed and burned in the last few days here. Hawkeye basically debuting the same day and date as Encanto did in the theaters. Hawkeye, of course, on Disney+. Two completely different properties, but two things that have both just absolutely splatted on open and don't seem to be going anywhere. So we're going to talk about these numbers. Of course, it's good to see everybody out there. YouTube is really enjoying these videos. They are pushing them out like crazy. You guys and girls out there seem to love them too. So hopefully, if you're like one of the 65 or 70% of the folks watching these new videos come out, and you aren't yet subscribed, well, I hope this is the one you do it. Hit that subscription button, that notification bell, hit that like button, that share button. Share this sucker out on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want. And most importantly, do leave a comment before you go. And in this case, tell me, are you going to watch Hawkeye? Have you watched it already? What did you think of the show? Tell me about that. Or do you not care? Are you kind of like me where I pretty much checked out of the MCU at Endgame? That was it for me. I told all three of my kids, I took them to see it the weekend it opened, and I looked at them after the movie was over, and I said, this is it. This is it. It is all downhill from here. And sure enough, I have been proven right every step of the way since then. It is really, it's falling apart. We're going to talk about this. So here we are with Hawkeye. This is, of course, another one of the new Phase 4 Marvel properties that has been designed to effectively discard a legacy character at this point. As we have seen so far, we have discarded Iron Man. Well, not quite officially yet. That will happen with Black Panther 2, where basically Iron Man and Tony Stark will get discarded in favor of Ironheart, another failed Disney Marvel character that had a very, frankly, poor comic book run of about 10 or 12 issues that didn't sell. But that character is getting replaced, of course, Captain America earlier this year in I don't even want to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, two characters that I adored that were then summarily destroyed in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So Captain America has been discarded, now replaced with Sam Wilson, who was fine as Falcon, and I don't know why Falcon wasn't good enough for Sam. That was one of my favorite Marvel characters, and now that's another video. It should have been Bucky. It absolutely should have been Bucky. It made no sense for it to be Sam whatsoever. And of course, we continued to discard characters like Loki, where Loki was a second fiddle bit player in his own Disney Plus show, and then is now effectively being discarded for Chick Loki. And guess what? Lo and behold, Hawkeye is exactly the same pile of puppy poop. It is a show called Hawkeye that really isn't about Hawkeye. It's Hawkeye being replaced by a female character. It is another discarded Marvel character that for one reason or another, they just don't want to have around anymore and are now going to replace them with another person who is either not male or not white or both. This is where Marvel is going. I think part of this, quite frankly, is due to the fact that Disney is trying to get away from any future or additional copyright legal battles. That's a topic for another video. Of course, right now, Disney and Stan Lee's estate are going at it. You can throw Steve Ditko in there as another one. It's kind of a mess, and I think this is a big reason why Marvel is radically changing a lot of these characters at this point so they can get away from any copyright issues going down the road, because they just don't want to pay the creators for these things. That's kind of how they've always been. So let's talk about these numbers for Hawkeye, because they're just straight awful. Basically, everything that Disney Plus or Marvel has built up on Disney Plus, since the beginning of the year, starting with WandaVision, has now been blown to smithereens. They've gone all the way back to square one. They've gone behind square one in terms of viewership and ratings, and it is something to behold. So let's talk about this. The first episode of Marvel's Hawkeye on Disney Plus, this is from Deadline, of course, drew 1.5 million U.S. households over the Wednesday to Sunday holiday stretch, while 1.3 million of them stuck around and watched the second episode. So already they have dropped a pretty significant little chunk there of their viewers that didn't even bother watching the second episode. They're falling off. And the first 2 episodes dropped immediately. There was no lag time. It's not like people watched episode 1, had to sit around for a week and wait for episode 2. No. The first 2 dropped. They watched episode 1 and then bailed, or a lot of them didn't even finish watching episode 1. This is according to the latest streaming viewership stats from SAMBA TV, which measures 3 million U.S. households and what they watch on streaming over a 5-minute increment. Now, I want to be clear, what SAMBA does is they extrapolate from their monitored TV sets, and if you don't know how SAMBA works, they basically have a little program built into a lot of smart TVs from companies like LG and Samsung, and they effectively monitor what's on the screen to see what people are watching, and then that creates a data list, and from the data they capture, they extrapolate that out over the entire U.S. population using the algorithms that they have constructed to do that. So Loki was watched by 2.5 million homes over its opening 3 days, and Hawkeye is 40% behind that at 1.5 million. And here's the kicker. Disney Marvel's Falcon and the Winter Soldier opened to 1.8 million views in the same time frame, WandaVision to 1.6. So again, they start with WandaVision in January. We get 1.6 million opening views for that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier jumps up a little bit to 1.8 million. Loki comes out that everybody was kind of looking forward to. That debuts to 2.5 million, but there was a precipitous drop-off for Loki as the series went on because, again, by that point, people started realizing what was happening to their Marvel characters. They were all getting shanked and replaced. This is kind of where this was all headed. And I think people knew going into Hawkeye that they were going to get the same mess. And, of course, Hawkeye was punished with a 1.5 million, now 1.3 in the second episode. You can expect that number to drop precipitously as time goes on. I think probably by the last couple, 2 or 3 episodes, they're going to have lost quite a bit more viewers. This is bad news for Disney Plus. This is bad news for Marvel. They cannot seem to really get anything to stick. When you look at a lot of other properties out there in streaming with much better viewership rates, especially considering the size and reach of Disney Plus for the number of households they have, this is just not good. I mean, Marvel is supposed to be their crowning jewel right now. Marvel Properties is what's supposed to be basically unaffected by anything, by market conditions, because it's Marvel, right? This was a $3 billion movie in Endgame that now has not gone anywhere since then and has effectively collapsed in on itself. We have seen it so far this year with very poor box office performance for Black Widow that did get a bit of a boost thanks to Premier Access on Disney+. Shang Chi did okay, but it still didn't make money. It also had an entire 30 days in theaters all by itself with no competition. There was nothing else to see at that point, and you really have to ask yourself, what would Shang Chi have done had it come out in October when like Venom and Dune and all these other big pictures came out, James Bond? It would not have done anywhere near as well. So, and then, of course, we recently had the Eternals, which was a total mess for Disney. That is going to wind up being one of the nastiest, ugliest losses that they have had in a while, particularly when it comes to Marvel, which they haven't had in maybe since, I don't know, the Hulk. That was before Disney even. So, any case, it is not going well for Disney with these things. They are having a really no good, bad week right now. You know, folks, I'm reminded of something that Bob Chapek himself said just a couple of months ago at a Goldman Sachs Media and Communications conference, where he said, a robust library of existing content is what keeps people engaged in your streaming service. And I'm paraphrasing here, but not by much. But it is a rich amount of new content that brings in new subscribers. Of course, this is what Disney Plus is really gearing towards over the next 12 months, the next fiscal year for Disney between now and September 30th of 2022. And that may come to fruition. They may do very well. They may bring in a bunch of new subs over the next 12 months as they continue to open in new markets. The problem is the things that they were hoping, the things that they were counting on to carry the water for this past 12 months and into the next year so far, especially from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just have not happened. They have not happened. Disney has not had a theatrical hit so far this year. In fact, again, none of the movies really so far that Disney has released have seemingly made any money, any profit at the box office. Now, maybe they'll make that up on the back end somewhere else, but that's a long haul. It really is, especially now that everything is being dumped directly onto their own proprietary streaming service. There's no external licensing rights coming in. That also quashes things like DVD and Blu-ray and 4K sales. So a lot of these things Disney is going to have to reassess going forward to see where is this money train going to come from. A lot of people are looking at some of the news coming out about Spider-Man, and that's going to be one of our next videos in the next week, talking about the business history of Spider-Man. Well, let me remind everybody that Spider-Man is a Sony property, not a Disney property. So when we hear about all this news about how Spider-Man right now is breaking records, outselling Avengers Infinity War in the first 24 hours of movie theater ticket pre-sales, that all sounds well and dandy, but Disney does not have the big grip on that one. They only have a 25% equity stake in this coming movie. Sony owns the lion's share of this, both from studio production and from distribution. So bear in mind right now, the MCU is still, regardless of what we might think, at this point, is in an unequivocal death spiral. It is going downhill and it is drowning quickly. And as I claimed months ago, yes, the MCU is indeed dead and Kevin Feige is killing it. And I continue to stand behind that statement. This continues to be a problem for Disney until this ship gets righted, and it's going to take a few years to do it. They're probably going to continue to suffer these kinds of effects as they continue to disrespect their legacy characters and drive audiences away. Good luck, Kevin. You're going to need it. Until next time, take care.